episode 26 of the Rundown Podcast. This is Noah. I've got my boy Dustin on my left.
Hi guys, I'm back. What's up, y'all?
Got Eli on my right.
What's good, everybody?
Got my boy Jalen in here too. We're going to go ahead and dive in and start discussing this new college football playoff came out. The top 6 teams. What y'all think about that?
Yeah, I mean, first I gotta send my apologies to Michigan. I've been a little critical of them this year at times. I wasn't too sure about how J.J. McCarthy was going to come out and play, especially with the fact that Blake Corum he missed the whole entire game, and now it came out today that he's going to have season-ending surgery on that knee. So
I didn't see that. Wow.
That Michigan's not going to have him for the rest of the season, even if they do make the playoff. But J.J. McCarthy stepped up. I mean, he hasn't had a necessarily big pop-off year, but he played really good in that Ohio State game. And Buckeyes got exposed in the horseshoe. Wasn't expecting that. But yeah, right now the way things are sitting, Georgia at 1, Michigan at 2, TCU at 3, and then USC at 4. I agree with that for the time being. But, I mean, a lot went down this past weekend with some upsets between Clemson and some other teams. So there might still be some chaos.
How you feel about 5 and 6?
5 and 6.
That's where it gets that's where it's whack to me. I agree with the top 4. Man.
See, that's where things get a little chippy, and
right.
There's some room for disagreement. Personally, I think after a performance like that at home with losing by 22 points,
yeah,
I'm on the side that Alabama deserves that 5 spot over Ohio State. That's just me though.
I mean,
what y'all think?
I'm not going to let him die on this hill alone. I'm with him on that one. Bama's 2 losses have been on the road on the last play of the game by a combined 4 points. Ohio State, we all said that this was going to be the game of the game that decides really what happens later on in the year. And I said that.
Yeah, same for Michigan too. I mean, it was both. It was the Big Ten is so. There's hardly any depth in the Big Ten whatsoever. Right. So with their resumes being so weak, they both needed that win.
Yeah, and I said, if this game was close, I said it last pod, I said if this game was close, I think both Michigan and Ohio State still make it in. Just because it's the 2 and 3 team in the country. But with Ohio State losing by 3 touchdowns at home in their rivalry game, I mean, that score, the score should have been worse if you watched the game. I think that Bama's their schedule, their strength of schedule, and the way they've lost their 2 losses, I think that should have put them at 5 over Ohio State. But I guess the committee chose the 1-loss team over the 2-loss team. I disagree with the 5 and 6 spot.
I mean, so we all agree on 1, 2, 3, and 4 right now, don't we?
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Everybody agree on 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, for the time
right now.
Even though, honestly, I think Michigan has an argument to be 1 over Georgia.
Okay, yeah, I agree.
Just because Georgia's struggled these last few games.
Right, but we all agree on those 4 teams being there.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
All right, so the disagreement is going to be Alabama and Ohio State.
Yeah. I know Jalen's going to disagree. We've already talked about this.
And
I got my reasons.
I'm going to let Jalen start this off because as a Bama fan, we can't be biased.
Oh.
And it's really hard to be unbiased as a Bama fan, but admittedly, most Bama fans are biased. And I had to realize my own bias, and I don't think we see things with a clear view sometimes. But I'm going to let Jalen start this off.
I mean, I got Ohio State at 5. It was competitive all the way to the 4th quarter. So when people talk about that, the whole game was just not competitive. Ohio State was playing with them all the way up to the 4th, and then it's got away. That's when I think Michigan scored three touchdowns in that 4th. It was 2 or 3. It was mostly competitive all the way up to the 4th. That being said, the main thing about the number one thing people like to say is, well, 2 of the losses was combined by 4 points, but there was literally 3 wins that was similar. So the Ole Miss game was close. The Texas game with their backup quarterback having to come in was still relatively close. Bama had to score a field goal at the very end.
Both those games were on the road. Let's not forget to mention that. Against top 25 teams.
Okay, but Texas has 4 losses.
But also,
Ole Miss has 4 losses.
But they're still good teams, though.
No, I think he has a point in the fact that Bama does have 3 wins.
Yeah, I agree.
They have 5 games that could have went either way.
Ohio State also has a couple wins that were close. They got squeaked by right at the very end, like the Northwestern.
Oh, I agree. Facts.
They won that 17-7. Yeah, it was bad weather, but it was 10-7 for the majority of the game. They scored a late touchdown to put them up by 10. But that's a game. If they would have dropped, you can't lose to Northwestern. if you're Ohio State, but like
yeah, I mean they found a way to win. I definitely agree. If Ohio State had 2 losses, then I would take Bama. But I think Ohio State having 1 less loss is the difference.
But also Michigan not only beat them by 3 touchdowns, they beat them that bad without their best player in Blake Corum. And he's like a Heisman candidate, and like he went down early. It's not like he went down late in the game.
But we got to remember now, Michigan looked absolutely terrible that week prior against Illinois. So I mean, really everybody's had their game where they haven't performed their best. Michigan, I mean, I know we're going to forget about that because of what they did against Ohio State. They played absolutely terrible against the Illinois team that is a 4 or 5 loss team in their own right. So I can see both sides, but right now I think Ohio State has the edge only because they have 1 less loss. And to me, Michigan, if you're arguing that they should be number 1, at the end of the day they lost to a team that you can argue that's number 1. Bama has lost. I mean, LSU. If we want to be honest, LSU should have never been in the top 5. They only was up that high because they beat Bama, and they carried a lot of weight. I don't think any of us think LSU was really. I don't even know how good LSU is, but that ranking was way too high. Tennessee absolutely got blown out by South Carolina that was unranked, so that doesn't help Bama either. In that their losses, those 2 teams had. I mean, you lose to A&M, who only has 5 wins. And then Tennessee loses Carolina. No. I'm talking about
LSU.
I'm talking about their losses. Bama's 2 losses.
Or the teams who
makes it now. Those losses look worse now.
No, the Tennessee loss doesn't look any worse.
Tennessee got blown out by unranked South Carolina.
No, and I get that.
How does that not matter?
That's not a good loss whatsoever. But that doesn't take away the fact that Tennessee has one of the best offenses in college football when Hendon Hooker's healthy.
Okay,
that doesn't change anything.
Yeah, but again,
and who do you think?
The loss doesn't look as good.
Who is Tennessee other than Bama?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean,
Bama might not be.
Tennessee did beat LSU by 34 points at LSU.
This is the problem. This is the problem, though. What's Alabama's best win?
Their best win is either Ole Miss, Texas,
Ole Miss
or Mississippi State.
Ole Miss was a top 10 team when Bama beat.
Okay, Oklahoma State was a top 10 team when TCU beat them.
It's true.
You see what I'm trying to say? Like,
I see what you're saying.
That's the problem with doing it.
Let me ask you this: which one is the better team to you right now, Alabama or Ohio State?
I go Bama.
I'm not sure.
I want to.
If they went head-to-head, I'm not sure.
This is my thing.
I don't know who would win
because Bama's defense is not being consistent.
My bad, Eli. But
this is my thing though. If you were to, look, let's say Georgia, Michigan at 1 and 2. If those teams today, and you ask them who would you rather want to play in the first round of the playoff, who do you think both those teams are saying? You think they're saying Ohio State, or do you think they would both rather play Alabama in the first round?
I'm gonna be honest with you. They don't want to see Ohio State or Alabama. They want to see TCU or USC for sure. They don't want to see either one of them.
I'm saying we're speaking hypothetical. Like say something crazy happens in both, and like let's say either Michigan or Georgia gets that 1 spot, and they had to choose who they wanted that 4th spot. Who do you think? What
I would have played Bama because Bama. I don't want to have to go against Njigba and Marvin Harris. I much rather go against Bama's receiving core and Ohio State's receiving core. And their running backs.
I would beg to differ because Michigan just got done waxing Ohio State by 22 points while they're starting Heisman candidate running back.
I mean, this honestly comes down to who has the better offense because neither team. Bama's defense hasn't been consistent, and Ohio State hasn't either. Whose offense is better?
Offense, I would say. I mean, it's really close, but
no, it's not.
It's not.
Bro,
the wide receivers.
Ohio State has 2 of the best receivers in the country when healthy. Their back will be coming back
But this is the thing, though.
And they have a top 2 quarterback.
Ohio State has a coach in Ryan Day who underutilizes them, so it takes away from them.
All right, this was the only game they was under. I mean, they lost. That was the only game they've been averaging 45 points. How they underutilized?
They might pick Bama because of the history, and Nick Saban can get his team up for big games. So you would rather not want to play Bama because of that reason. But if you only looked at the teams based off of this year, Bama looks like a very beatable team. We talk about all the games they struggled to win.
If I'm a cornerback for Georgia, you want to go against Marvin Harrison and Njigba, or you want to go against Alabama's inconsistent wide receiving core? You tell me, and that's not close.
Hey, if I know,
hold on.
But that's gonna be the biggest difference in the game.
I'll deflect the question though. Let's look at Ohio State's defense. Ohio State's defense is god awful, man. God awful.
Alabama's defense has not been consistent. Alabama's defense has not been consistent.
I would say Alabama
is playing their best football
right now. Alabama's defense has been playing their best football this season.
Their last 2 games have been against who though?
They've played against Ole Miss, beat them on the road. They played Auburn.
And Ole Miss proceeded to lose their last 2 games of the season.
They didn't give up
to 2 unranked teams.
They didn't
Arkansas has 5 losses, and then they lost to Mississippi State.
They didn't give up 300 plus passing yards against Auburn or Ole Miss.
Auburn is terrible.
Texas.
So you think Ohio State will put up a better fight against Georgia than Bama?
Yes, because Georgia has a great defense, right? Mm-hmm. So to me, I don't think Alabama's defense is great this year, and I don't think Ohio State's is either. But I think if you're a Georgia defense, which that's the best strength for their team, I'd rather go against Alabama because to me they have less weapons.
They do.
Bryce has really the best Bama offense is Bryce having improvise. I don't have a great play caller. We already know about the offensive coordinator situation.
But he had his best week last week by getting vertical.
And Jigba and Marvin Harrison, you want to deal with that?
That's the thing. I think the one team in the country that has the talent to actually outplay and beat a Georgia is a team like Alabama. Alabama has the talent to be able to knock off a Michigan, to knock off a Georgia, and not to say that Ohio State doesn't either. But Alabama just hasn't been utilizing the weapons. But we saw in that Auburn game. That's not
a good example.
But I know you're going to say it's against. I know you're going to say it's against Auburn, but I do think you can just look at them and see that they're better than they were when they played the LSU, when they played the Tennessee.
Yeah, and Bama is playing like you said. Bama's playing their best football of the season right now, and Georgia is playing their worst football of the season right now. So I think if you put Bama playing Georgia, I think Georgia is at a very high risk of getting got in that first round in the playoff.
But I disagree.
But I mean, it's still a possibility, even with Bama being ranked 6th, that Bama could sneak in backdoor 4th seed if USC and TCU both lose.
TCU has to get blown out.
See, now, if Bama, no, I don't agree with that. I think TCU has to stay undefeated.
I disagree.
TCU has to stay undefeated.
Really?
Yes.
No.
TCU has
every single one of their team, every single one of their wins has like 3 or 4 losses.
Bama does too.
No, not at the point when we beat them.
See, you can't do that because TCU could say the same thing. At the point that they played Oklahoma State, they were undefeated. At the point they played Oklahoma, they were undefeated. At the point they played Kansas, they were undefeated. See, you can't do that because
you're comparing.
But
these
they just
teams
got
to
one
SEC
loss
schools.
though.
No, I'm not comparing them. You can't look at the ranking of when it happened because Ole Miss, Bama beat Ole Miss when they were 11. They're unranked now. If you go by the metric of looking at the game when it was played, TCU can say they have 5 top 25 wins.
All right, I think both of y'all are. I think both of y'all are off a little bit. Just because a team is ranked, we don't respect those Big 12 teams. I'm sorry. I don't care who they beat. It don't mean nothing to me. Bama's better than TCU.
But the committee's gonna look at that. That's
true.
Because they make the rankings for a reason. They don't make the rankings to not judge them.
I still would think Bama would be better. Now, I don't think Bama deserves to get in because TCU would be losing to a team that they already beat, if I'm not mistaken. Wouldn't it be a rematch game? Who TCU's playing in the Big 12 championship?
Kansas State. The problem is Kansas State's ranked number 10.
And
that's not a bad loss.
Did TCU already beat them?
Yes, and it's hard to beat a team twice, exactly. So they're gonna measure all of it.
I think it's gonna take kind of like a blowout loss in order for TCU.
I don't think a blowout loss gets TCU out of there.
No, that's so we agree.
I think that TCU's locked in there.
Me too. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to. We agree.
Unless it's like 49-0. If it's like,
it has to be an absolute blowout. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no. It has to be like 52-0.
No. Listen,
I agree.
If TCU, let's say USC wins the Pac-12 championship, but TCU loses, Ohio State's getting that 4th seed. There's no way they're going to put a 1-loss TCU in over a 1-loss.
That's an argument.
That's an argument.
That's a debate.
That's 50-50.
There's no way. So that leaves room. If TCU and USC both lose, that means Ohio State and Bama both get in.
No. See, the problem is
that could happen. That could really happen.
It could, but there's no way.
What are the chances?
A 2-loss Bama team?
TCU has to get blown out.
Bama's losses, like the way they lost, is why they're still.
Hold on.
You can't ignore the wins that were really close too, though.
We keep saying.
You can't just do the losses and not do the wins.
I'm biased to the SEC as well, but for some reason, just because they're LSU and Tennessee,
LSU's not that good.
They're not that good.
LSU is not better than Penn State.
And Tennessee's not that good.
If Penn State and LSU play today, I would favor Penn State. And Ohio State argue that they have the best wins.
Tennessee's not that good.
Tennessee has a great offense and no defense. So they're equivalent to TCU and Ohio State.
All Penn State is known for is fumbling leads.
They only have their 2 losses to 2 top 5 teams.
You're over here talking
about. They lost to 2 top 5 teams.
Well, Tennessee has lost to South Carolina.
Penn State has 2 top 5 losses.
Hold on.
Why is Penn State not in the playoff hunt? Wait. Why is Penn State not in the playoff hunt if that only loss is to 2 top 5 teams?
Look, you're over here talking like Penn State's made a playoff like ever. Like, when's the last time?
What does this have to do with the argument?
I'm saying they're nobodies, bro. Every year they do the same thing.
Eli, the only losses is to Michigan and Ohio State, which literally everybody in the country could lose outside of maybe Bama and Georgia.
Yeah, well, I mean, they haven't done anything. It's been the same way for the past 8 years.
So who has the better 2 losses, Bama or Penn State?
Penn State.
Better 2 losses.
No, Bama.
Yeah, Bama does.
Really?
What?
Yes.
Ohio State and Michigan are their only 2 losses. They're 2 top 5.
Both of them are on the road on the last play of the game.
So you think
LSU might not be that good?
LSU,
Penn State got blown out.
LSU,
Both of them.
hold on, what like LSU? Well, LSU has no offense. I don't even know how they beat Bama, but they did. They found a way. I'm trying to remember. I watched the game.
Jaden Daniels ran all over.
I watched the game. LSU offense. I watched them against Arkansas, and they bet literally it was the Perkins show. It was the Perk show, and that's the only reason I got out of Razorback Stadium with a dub.
Jaden Daniels.
LSU offense is not good at all.
Jaden Daniels wasn't playing in that Arkansas game.
Yes, he was.
You mean?
I watched it. Yes, he was. I watched
Jefferson
the game.
wasn't playing. Jefferson wasn't playing for Arkansas.
Who was it? Oh, never mind. Yeah, I got it mixed up. My bad.
LSU is not that good.
I don't think
LSU's
they're
a top 15 team.
SEC bias sometimes comes into play.
And Tennessee might not be that good either, bro.
Yeah, how do we know Tennessee? Tennessee's wide rolled their offense. That's really.
I'm telling you, dude. TCU's and USC's strength of schedule and the conferences they play in. If they lose their next game, they will both not make the playoffs.
USC agree. I agree with USC.
How is losing to a top 10 team get you automatically out when that's your first loss in a Big 12?
The reason why is because we don't actually respect TCU.
I agree. I don't think the Big 12 is good either. I agree with you.
They're only up here because they're undefeated.
Problem,
but
of course, that's the only reason they're up there. Because I don't think TCU's better than Ohio State or Bama. But the problem is their only loss is going to be to Kansas State. Right? They already beat Kansas State before. So
I just don't think Bama to get in.
Bama
Bama is better than both of them. I agree.
Yeah, we all can agree on that.
I don't think
that's the thing. You say they don't deserve them, but they're playing like they've been playing like one of the best teams in the country.
They haven't played a good team in weeks.
But they haven't been playing like the best teams in the country for a majority of the season.
Yeah, I know that, but they're playing their best football right now. So that's the thing. Like, in years
if
past,
Ohio State had the last 2 weeks,
they
would be undefeated by now.
The whole point of the college football playoff is to put the 4 best teams in the playoff.
We don't ever do that, Eli. We don't ever put the best 4 teams. We put the most deserving in. We don't put the best. We have TCU in our top 4 right now, not because they're better than the teams behind them. We put them in because they just won out. That's really it. That's the only reason right now.
I think it's a marriage of the most. I think it's the most. It's either the best of the most deserving teams or the most deserving of the best teams. It's not mutually exclusive. It's not just the best teams or just because then Bama would automatic bid.
I think we get the top 2 to 3 every year.
Like best teams?
But it's always a mismatch. At least one game is a mismatch. Usually. It's usually one team that shouldn't be in there. Like, it's been times where Georgia didn't get in because they lost to Joe Burrow's team, but we knew they were still the top 4 team. They just lost.
They didn't get in over Notre Dame?
Right. Like, Notre Dame wasn't better than that Georgia team. Georgia just lost to Burrow in them, which would beat anybody. Right? So they got self-eliminated because they had to go to the SEC Championship and take an extra loss. And then Michigan State one year played Bama. They was absolutely terrible.
But he's saying that we shouldn't put them teams in because they're not going to compete. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm saying if TCU, like, I'm not saying TCU doesn't deserve to get in right now. Like, obviously, yes. And if they win their game, then you got to automatically put them in. But if they get blown out in that Big 12 championship game, I do think that opens up the door for Alabama.
I agree. If it's 52-0.
I'm not saying I don't think it has to be that crazy.
I think it
I think
they could lose by 7 touchdowns.
If they lose by 22 plus,
no,
25 plus,
they're in. If they lose by 22.
No, I disagree.
Wait, why though? They only got one.
That's
loss.
one loss to the top 10 team.
I get it. It's one loss, but at the same
Big
time,
12 loss.
it's.
Kansas State's ranked number 10 though. I know we don't think they're good.
One Big 12 loss is like 2 losses in the SEC.
I agree, but that's not how the committee's gonna look at it. They're gonna just take it as.
But what would you do though? Because it's easy to say what the committee would do. What would you do?
Even because like
I would do that. I would do that.
You would put Bama in?
No, I would put in TCU.
And bro, like just think about like the committee has to also take into effect that if they put Bama and Ohio State, let's say TCU and USC both lose. If they put Bama and Ohio State in, that means you got Georgia, Michigan, Bama, and Ohio State in your 14 playoff. That's the 4 best teams in the entire country. And it means more ratings.
Well, USC's playing really good.
If it was about the ratings, they would eliminate it.
I mean, I'm not saying it's about the ratings.
Cincinnati, when they got in last year,
think about that has to come into play too. Because nobody's gonna want to see a TCU versus Georgia or USC versus Georgia. That's gonna be a spanking.
We didn't want to see Cincinnati and Bama. Cincinnati had no chance
because they were undefeated.
Hold
But
on,
who
I
was
think-
Cincinnati? I don't remember who.
Cincinnati was undefeated.
Who would have got in? Who was Cincinnati competing with? I don't think it was.
It's always somebody. It's always somebody.
No, but
bad.
it wasn't
I don't
nobody.
know.
It wasn't
I don't know
nobody.
who
That,
was.
I mean, they were competing with Notre Dame for that last spot, but they beat Notre Dame early in the season, so that kind of gave them the edge.
it wasn't.
But
Yeah, you're right.
It wasn't like a Georgia or a Bama or Ohio State at that time, which those teams we just feel like are a level above the other teams in the.
no, but I would say I think TCU versus Georgia or Michigan is probably. I mean, I don't like those matchups as good for TCU, but I actually do think USC can compete with
You do?
either one of. I think
Hold on.
offensively, I don't think they have a great defense whatsoever. But
They
Caleb
struggle with
Williams,
these weak teams, man.
no, I know that, but their offenses, I think they could get in a shootout.
They might.
Oh, wait.
Their best chances
But
to get in a
Caleb,
shootout.
you're just trying to see the best player in the country, which I would rather see a USC than a TCU, just because Caleb, right?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
But I still don't think it's even.
Yeah, it's not. No,
We can't-
they're still outmatched.
We
But I'm
can't
saying,
self-eliminate Ohio State and say that they don't play defense, and then say, well, I'll like USC and they don't play
USC is a
defense.
better offense than Ohio State.
I disagree.
Dude,
They got a better quarterback.
They got a
Dude,
way better quarterback.
he's not way better.
No, he's not way better.
He's not way better than
Caleb
Stroud.
Williams is better than CJ Stroud.
He's not way better. You
He's
act like
better than CJ Stroud.
He's
Yes,
way
he
better
is.
than Stroud. It's close.
He's not way better.
Before
than
the
Yeah,
season-
stop it.
He's clearly better than CJ
No,
Stroud.
Y'all recency bias really kicks in.
What are you talking about?
It pisses me
What
off.
are you talking about?
Y'all really, y'all gotta stop
Bro,
recency
yeah,
bias.
why is
Y'all
that
act like
recency bias?
Stroud, it sucks. Like Stroud just had
Bryce
a terrible
Young is-
off season.
Bryce Young is better
Stroud
than
struggled
CJ.
one game against Michigan, and now he's
No,
not. He was
Stroud-
leading the
no.
Heisman prior to the game.
No,
Now he's
It was
not good.
No!
It wasn't.
He
Caleb
was.
Caleb
Let's
Williams
not scream.
Caleb
Hold on,
Williams
hold on,
has
we
been
screaming
behind
too
in the
much.
past 4
He's
weeks.
screaming too much.
No, that's this. The last
Caleb
two.
Williams has been
No, the
leading
last-
for a minute.
After the Notre Dame game, Caleb
Bro,
was like
literally the Heisman
when
was
they won.
Caleb Williams, Blake Corum,
No,
then maybe
Blake
Stroud.
has never been over Stroud this entire
Bro,
year.
when has Stroud actually had a good game this season?
He's been top 2 Heisman the whole year.
But
He has.
Stroud
He's been
has
high-
He's
struggled.
been
with-
consistent.
No, but
Why
His
we
past
acting like
3 or
he
4
hadn't been
weeks, he's fell
consistent?
off, man.
But he struggled in moments in this season.
I
With-
agree.
With the
Oh,
best
he struggled,
weapons in
like,
the
very
country.
much. Yeah.
He has the best weapons in the country.
Like, dude, if Bryce Young had CJ Stroud's weapons, come on.
Bryce is better than CJ.
Like, let's not act like Caleb is playing tough defenses though. If Caleb played
Okay,
good
yeah,
team defenses,
but
he would
neither
have a
is
couple
Ohio
off
State.
games.
Neither is Ohio State.
He would have a couple off games.
Ohio
Caleb-
State's not playing anybody.
So you think
else.
CJ better than Caleb?
I think it's close.
Who's better?
Y'all acting like it, I'm not sure. It's like
Right.
Bryce and Stroud to me.
Who's better?
Bryce a
Caleb
little bit,
Williams.
Who's better?
but it's close.
Caleb Williams is really close.
It's close, bro. It's really close.
Really
Y'all-
close.
Bro, I have,
Act
not
like-
liked, I have not liked what I've seen from Stroud this past month.
Stroud don't be.
He is
Stroud
falling
leads-
apart.
They don't-
Stroud literally leads college football in touchdown passes.
Who do they play on
Literally
defense?
has the best weapons.
Who
in the
does
country.
Caleb
Who
Williams?
is Caleb playing? Who is Caleb?
I didn't bring that
I'm
up.
saying Caleb
Bro.
Williams is way better than CJ Stroud.
Way better about what
He's not
metric?
way better.
He's way better about what
CJ
metric?
Stroud is a great prospect.
I
He's
think
been
I don't know if
He
he's
is.
way better, but he's clearly better.
I think he is.
He's better. I agree with y'all.
It's
I don't
close.
think about it.
It's
I'm not
close.
saying he's way
It's
better.
not
Than
that-
that.
That's what are we arguing about? We all agree.
No, we're arguing that it's like not like
It's
not
like a-
somebody's not close. Like Stroud's just not him at all.
I'm telling you, if
That's-
it was
that's just-
draft time and Caleb Williams was eligible, it would go Bryce Young, Caleb Williams, CJ Stroud. And honestly,
No.
Caleb Williams and Bryce Young, it
Wait.
depends
Here
on
go
the team.
Caleb Williams, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud.
Where's
That's what I'm saying. It would
where's
depend on the team.
where's Richardson at in that?
Hey, I'm not the one that said that.
6th round.
Okay, that's
Actually, no,
yeah,
I'm sorry, I just had to be
bring out
funny.
old takes.
I just had to be
No,
funny.
they still like
Straight old
they
takes,
still
not-
I
like
just had to be funny.
they
about
still
that.
like
I'm
his they
sorry.
still like his athleticism though. He's still gonna get drafted.
Oh, I know.
He'll still get drafted.
Oh, I like
feel
his, I like his build too, but he's that's about it.
yeah.
But I'm not gonna we're not gonna get back on
So
that.
we're
track,
talking
but-
about this 14 playoff, but now if this was 2024, there'd be 12 teams in because this just got approved by the Rose Bowl that effective in 2024 that there will be 12 teams in this college football playoff. So basically, Bama and Georgia and probably Ohio State, Michigan are never missing the playoff again.
basically.
They're all 4 in there every year. So what do y'all think about that 12-team expansion?
I really like it. I mean, I remember a few months ago when we were talking about this and talking about the possibility of. I remember a few.
Oh, my bad, wrong one. Keep going.
Yeah, I remember a few weeks ago. I think it was before college football. In one of our episodes, we were talking about the possibility of college football expanding, and I mentioned the fact I think a 12-team playoff would be perfect. And then, just midway point through this year, that's when the talks really heated up in discussion. But I'm all for it, honestly, especially in a year like this year. I think especially in a year like this year where there hasn't been that clear cut like top dog in college football.
Right.
I think a 12-team playoff would be perfect in this scenario because then all these teams that we're sitting here, going back and forth about, they'll actually be able to hash it out at the end of the season. So, yeah, I'm really glad and I'm really excited to see the 12-team playoff really go into full effect here pretty soon. Actually, that's only a year and a half, 2 years away. So
yeah, see, like you said, I think this year especially is like the perfect example of why a 12-team playoff would be like more entertaining for the sport, just because you got so many teams playing their best ball right now that have had some tough losses on the road or early in the year. But I mean, obviously, I think it creates more parity for college football. I mean, I know that's been a topic for the past few years, just because it seems like it's the same 4 teams every year. But I like it too as well. Some people argue like they like the fact that it's the 4 best teams and that losses actually matter. But I think it like the reason why March Madness is so popular is because anybody can lose to anybody. I think if you add that into football, like let's say if there's a year where a 12 seed upsets a 1 seed, just comes out of nowhere, I think that's good for the sport. I really do.
I think also like we've seen this take effect in the past couple of years. Like some of these top NFL prospects who don't wind up making the college football playoff, who skip out on their bowl game, we actually get to see those guys play more near the end of the season too.
True.
And we get to see more of them go out there and compete. So I think that's also another factor to take into account with this college football playoff expansion. So I think that'll be really beneficial for college football. It'll be really beneficial for these players who have had really good seasons who might have had an unfortunate loss or two, but they'll still be able to go out there and give it everything they got and not have to skip out on their bowl game because they feel like the bowl game it doesn't mean anything.
I like the 12 team. I would personally go with 8 though, because I think once you start getting the 12 teams, you start getting teams with 3 losses. So now we go affect the regular season a little bit more. I'm hoping that they decrease some of the regular season games to maybe like 10 games. Maybe give the first couple seeds the first round bye.
Yeah, that's gonna be in effect with the 12 team. Is the first 4 teams are gonna have byes.
Okay, so that's
first 4. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then I think the first round is going to be played on the home field of the higher seed.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
I like that.
I like seeing it because there's going to be a lot more teams in contention, but I don't want the great thing about college football is the regular season is basically a double elimination tournament.
Yeah.
Right. When you lose one game, you're almost out. You lose another one, you're basically out of contention. And it made every regular season game matter. But this week we got championship games that don't affect the playoff, right? If Georgia win or loss, they're in.
But all the groundwork that they put in throughout the regular season, their dominant win over Tennessee and all that other stuff, that that's what got them to that point, though.
No, that is true, but I'm saying like I just want as many games to mean something as much as possible.
Yeah.
I just think it's good for the sport, but I mean it'll be fun to see a bunch of teams in there. It's gonna be weird that one year that a 3-loss or a 4-loss team.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I don't know about
whack.
4. I don't think
4 losses is a little bit of.
You don't think a 4 will get a seed?
No,
I
don't.
They could.
So
But
this
I do think.
hold on. This is another thing. Are there any like if you win a conference championship, you're in? Like period.
Yeah. See, it's like.
So if you do that, the one year that the other, because all the good teams in the Big Ten are in on one side of the division, right? You might have to get rid of division, because if you do an automatic bid for the conference champion, you could have whoever's on the west side of the Big Ten,
I saw something the other day that
like the Iowas and the Iowa States, if they beat
That
State.
That don't never happen though.
But
That don't ever happen.
one year they did lose. I don't know who beat them. I don't know if it was Nebraska who won. Somebody beat. I think it was Nebraska.
This
Won
was
the Big
this
Ten.
was a long.
It wasn't too long. I think it was in the playoff era. If I'm not mistaken, I think Ohio State lost it, but they're still trying to get them in. But I don't want that a team with 4 or 5 losses that won their conference to get in just because they won.
No, and I think the SEC actually a couple weeks ago came out and said they're actually going to get rid of the East and West divisions. So I think that's going to help out a lot too, because like you're not just going to like say the SEC East one year is really weak, which we've seen, in the early 2010s compared to the SEC West, but then they get an SEC championship and there's some crazy upset. I think if they get rid of divisions, that's going to fix that to the point to where you're not going to get frauds getting a bid to the college football playoff. And I don't think if you like even with the divisions right now, I don't think even if you get say a 5-loss team or a 4-loss team were to happen to pull off some crazy upset, I still don't think, even if they were to do that and win their conference, I don't think that gives you a reason to give them an automatic bid, though.
Well, I've seen in the early stages of people proposing a 12-team playoff or 18 playoff, they were saying that the conference champions of the Power 5 teams will be automatic bids, and then you take one Group of 5 team, and then the rest would be at large.
Yeah.
But in that scenario, it would happen. But I don't know if they're doing automatic clinch, like you win coverage, you automatically clinch. I don't know if they're doing that.
Yeah.
But I love the idea, though, of, like, with the 12-team playoff, though, like, obviously the one thing I dislike about it is that it does take away from the regular season a little bit. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing I hate, because that's what makes college football so great, and that's why it's been so great for so long. But one thing I love about it is, like, the fact that there's going to be teams and the campus life on game day. Like, just the idea of, like, we got a playoff game on campus.
Yeah, that's going to be electric.
That's ridiculous to me. Just the thought of that.
Like I don't know who's 11 right now.
It was Penn State.
They'd have to come to Bryant-Denny.
Penn State's 8 now.
And it'd be a elimination game in Bryant-Denny. Or could you
Yeah.
imagine the matchups we could have gotten in years past?
Yeah, like the 2016, 2017
Yeah,
time.
or the Kyler Murray's
Elite.
going to play another high post. That's just going to be super exciting.
Yeah, I agree. The whole having a playoff game at your campus is just like elite. Like that's one of the best ideas college football has ever had. But I do like the playoff was expanded, but honestly, I think I would lean more towards an 18 as well.
So 12. I think 12 too much.
It makes the regular season. It makes the regular season matter just a little bit more, because like if you get let 12 teams in,
we don't ever argue for 12 teams when it comes to play. It'd be 2 to 3.
A 12-team playoff, you could have like those 12 or 11 seeds could have 3 losses, and it just depends on how the year plays out. But like if it's 8 teams at the most, you're probably gonna have a 2-loss team.
Yeah, like Florida State this year has 3 losses. They're gonna end up in the top 12.
But I mean, I kind of like
Florida State.
Oh yeah, right.
Like Florida State lost. I think they started 1-2, and then they lost 1 more, and they've won out since. Which they're arguably one of the hottest teams in the country. But it's like they year with USC when they had Sam Darnold. They lost to Bama. I think they lost 3 in a row or something. And then they got hot and won out. And they would have, if it would have been a longer playoff, they would have done some damage probably. Mm-hmm. But teams like that tend to have. But still, it's like you got 3 losses and you still got a chance. But I mean,
and then teams like Bama and Georgia are getting in every year, like basically.
Oh, it's guaranteed.
They're just locks.
Bama, Georgia, Ohio State.
And basically Michigan and Ohio State locks too.
Like, they're just locks for don't never miss it again.
Yeah. Clemson too.
Yeah.
Because ACC so weak, and even Clemson being mid, they're still 10-2 most years.
All right,
so
we got next.
Yeah, and so after that 12-team college football playoff expansion talk, now we're going to be getting into some hires in the college football world. First one, and probably one of the most notable this past week, was Auburn hiring Hugh Freeze. Big time hire down there in Auburn. A lot of people were speculating Lane Kiffin might take his talents down there. He wound up staying with Ole Miss. There were talks of Deion Sanders preseason and throughout the whole entire year. But turns out that Hugh Freeze is that guy that they're going to roll with for the next coming years. So what do y'all think of that hire?
So basically Auburn got their third option, which is funny. Their first option was probably Lane Kiffin, and then right there behind that was Deion Sanders. But then landed Hugh Freeze. I mean, honestly, I was a little bit surprised that the SEC let him back in after all the allegations that he had at Ole Miss. But I mean, maybe it's been some time since that, so maybe they just let him back in. But Auburn fans, I think it'll be a solid hire. I think he'll do better than Harsin did.
Yeah.
But Auburn fans are really riding this. He has 2 wins against Saban a little bit too hard, because that was 8 years ago. Let me remind you. And
a long time.
He's scored more with prostitutes lately than he has on the football field. So I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if he can keep clean down there after all those allegations. But all jokes aside, I think it's a solid hire. He'll do better than Harsin. If he's better than Malzahn was, and I think that's a win for Auburn.
Oh, for sure. I think his contract has he can't have any social media. While he's the head coach of Auburn, because he had some more stuff come up. If I'm not mistaken.
At Liberty.
Yeah, with the Liberty student body. So
I didn't know if that was true or not, but I guess it is.
Well, I don't know if it's true, but I think that their students down there are saying that some funny business went on. But but they're
allegedly.
Nah. But they're saying that he can't have any social media, but I mean they offered him a lot of money, so
Yeah, I mean, hey,
You can say no to social media for that type of badge, but no, if it's all about football, I mean, he's proven that he can coach on the SEC level. He does have good wins against Bama back to back. I don't know if that's. I can't remember the last time we lost to the same team back to back years.
yeah.
But I mean, it's something to be proud of. But I don't know. I think it's a lot of rebuilding that needs to go down there in Auburn, and I don't know if he's the guy, but I think he's the best option they have.
I'm trying to figure out why does Auburn give head coaches 6, 7, 8 year deals?
Yeah, how long was his contract?
What are we
It's
doing?
a big contract. I don't know.
6 years, 39 million,
So
something like
think,
that.
like
you
6
think
million.
that Auburn would have learned their lesson with the fact that they're still paying 2 coaches?
Yeah.
And
And they just got done paying Chizzy from 2010.
yeah,
I mean, what are y'all doing? Y'all put yourself in debt every time. You don't wait till the coach.
yeah.
I mean, get a guy a 2 or 3 year deal. See what he does.
See,
You're not gonna
See,
take. They
that's
don't
why-
take that deal.
That's the
I
amount
guess
of
the
time
coaching-
that
That's why, in
you
my
need to
opinion,
show some.
in my opinion, I like that's why I thought they would have never landed Kiffin because he wanted too much money and they couldn't afford to pay him because they're still paying Malzahn, still paying Harsin. But I think once Auburn didn't land Sanders, I think why not give Cadillac a shot? Give him a 2-year deal.
That I was gonna say
Yeah,
something
it don't
about
hurt.
Cadillac.
Y'all wildin'.
I kind of
No, that's not.
no,
That's
it's not.
That's not a
Look,
bad idea.
Y'all
Look,
wildin'.
look, I was at that Alabama
Cadillac.
Auburn game. Cadillac had those guys. I mean, he has those guys pumped up. Now, obviously, they're.
He's an
not-
energy guy.
He lit.
He is an energy.
He's
guy.
an energy guy.
He's a great coach, though.
Mm.
I don't know if he's a great
Auburn-
coach, but he
He's an energy
Auburn-
he
guy.
does motivate the players. He
Auburn,
does.
energy.
Auburn had an opportunity to become bowl eligible in that Iron Bowl, even despite all the chaos and turmoil that was going on the first half of the year with Harsin. So
No, he did a great job.
You got to give him props for that. I do think they kind of did Cadillac a little dirty. I like him as a coach. He's a great guy.
Hold on.
I think-
Hold on.
But he did look. I do like the fact that that Hugh Freeze brought him on as the associate head coach, though.
Well,
So
they-
I think that's going to really benefit them and their program.
I mean, that's a good idea considering.
Well, they already
he
said
might
that.
get some
They already,
next,
yeah, true.
and they can just put him in there.
They already said that he has to be a part of the coaching staff no matter who they hire, which I think is the right move because it is
Yeah.
good to have that type of personality around those guys. They really like him.
Yeah.
X's and O's, I don't know if he has that. I have no reason to believe that he does.
See, like that's why I said like just give him a 2-year deal, see what he can do. Because I mean, it's only up from here for Auburn. I mean, you can't
No.
really get much worse.
Bro, he hasn't proven anything.
No, I agree with you. Like coaching wise, yes, but the fact that what he has done is he had a better recruiting class as an interim head coach than Harsin ever did. I mean,
Yeah, and the other thing
he's
too
got
is
those
like
players and the fan base behind him.
the other thing too is like with these Southeastern Conference schools, like if you're going to have a successful program, you got to have guys within that program who have either played or been around the culture for a really long time in order to have like that really have the culture that you want to build that top notch where you want to get to in terms of making the playoff and stuff. So that's vital to any program. Alabama, Georgia, you got to have people that are plugged into that program, plugged into the coaching staff who know the program and know the identity of the program.
I mean, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, see, that's why, like, obviously, if they could have gotten Kiffin or Sanders, I would have 100% went with one of those guys. But, like, once you fall to the level of Hugh Freeze, who, I mean, he's a solid coach, don't get me wrong. He just had some off-field issues, and that's something you'll never run into with Cadillac Williams. And the fact that the players were behind him, the fan base was too. I mean, he took over halfway through a terrible season for Auburn as an interim head coach.
Y'all really believe in Cadillac like that?
No, I'm saying, like, he hasn't really had enough time to, like, really
Is
evaluate.
anybody in here drive a Cadillac? Like,
Do they still make Cadillac?
No, I
That's
saw
awesome.
I saw a tweet on Twitter. It was crazy, bro. I saw somebody tweeted said Auburn went from a Cadillac to an Escort.
oh,
With Hugh Freeze, bro. That's funny.
Nah, that's
I got to give props to Lane though. He played his hand perfectly in this whole situation though because he was in the crossroads between staying at Ole Miss and going to Auburn, and either way, just the way that he played it out, you know how he is on social media.
Right.
He's always teasing people. He got himself a bag at Ole Miss. So.
that's a great way to do that.
And
string,
Auburn was-
string between two teams, and then you're like, hey, who wants me more? And then that's how you get
Yeah.
money. That's
how
what
these women are.
I think that Lane Kiffin decision had a little bit to do with the fact that he wants the Bama job after Saban's done as well. Because I mean, if he went to Auburn, that just jeopardizes that whole agenda. So I mean,
do y'all want to get him that Bama job?
No, I don't think
I don't know, bro.
he didn't leave Alabama on good terms with Saban. Even though he talks nice about him now, he didn't leave
Yeah,
on
but
great terms with Saban.
you're not a Lane guy. You don't think Lane should come in?
I like Lane, but personally, I wouldn't hire him as Alabama's next head coach. But that's down the line.
You're
Like,
that- you're that guy.
anybody who's going to go in right behind Saban is going to be like you can't fill those shoes. So you got to understand that. Like
Sure,
Saban's the best college football coach of all time.
That's fact.
So,
But yeah, if y'all had to give the Hugh Freeze higher grade, what would you give it?
I'd give it a C, maybe a C plus. Just because they did get a solid, established head coach. He has had some off-field issues. Whenever he's been a coach, he's had some good wins. He has beat Saban twice. I'll give you that. So that's why I give it a C plus. But the only reason that it's not a B or an A is because he was their third option. They didn't really land the big guy they wanted.
I would give it a D. I mean, 6 years?
Okay, yeah, the contract wise is an F for me.
Hugh Freeze is not worth that. And then at least wait for him to show you something for you. You can extend him out if he show you something. But I mean,
I would give him like 3 or 4.
I mean, he might start bringing in somebody, and he might start messing around first season. Then now you got to try to get rid of him, and now you got to owe him $30+ million.
Well, I mean, if he has off-field issues, then he gets fired, and they don't owe him money.
Okay.
But,
Okay.
like,
Well, I'll change it to a C then.
Yeah, if they fire him because of on-field stuff, then they have to pay him.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it a B because I mean I know the off-field issues. That's something that obviously is a little bit of a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
But he did build a successful program with Ole Miss in his time there. The one thing he was able to beat Alabama twice, but both those years they didn't even make the SEC championship. So that's one thing. If he's gonna become the next Auburn head coach, you gotta get your guys locked in the regular season. And I think that's been one of the little red flags about Hugh Freeze, but he did a great job at Liberty. He did a really solid job with Ole Miss, so I'll give it a B.
I go B minus. We'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, and then the next coach is Matt Rule, making the move from the NFL back down to the college level. Obviously, he used to be the head coach at Temple, and then he built up a really good program with Baylor. And now Nebraska, in my opinion, I think Nebraska is one of those programs that's like a sleeping giant right now. We haven't heard of them in so long, but they're one of the most storied programs in all of college football, and they've got arguably the most passionate fan base of any college football team. What do y'all think of that hire?
I really like that one.
That's a great hire.
I might get that one an A. Because Matt Rule, he's just a perfect college coach. He didn't really, he wasn't good in the NFL. All guys can't translate it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a great hire for Nebraska. I think he can turn around the program.
Yeah, it's an A for me too. I mean, he's shown that he can build a college program success at those other places, like you said. So I mean, I think it's a great hire to get them back on track.
Yeah, I agree. It's an A for me.
Yeah, I got to give it an A as well. I'm gonna hop on the board here. He had, obviously had that great season with Baylor, and then even back at Temple, actually, thinking back to his time at Baylor, he started off in his first year at Baylor, they were 1-11, and then 2 years later, they were 11-3, the Big 12 champs. So you got to give that man. That's a really hard thing to do, to turn around a program that quickly. Yeah. And he did the same thing with Baylor or with Temple as well. So I love the hire of Matt Rule, and I think he's going to be better suited going back down to college compared to his time with Carolina. I think we can all agree it wasn't too pleasant in the NFL. So
Definitely not.
Yeah, didn't really pan out that well for Matt Rule there in Carolina, but I think he'll do a solid job. I mean, if you're at Nebraska, I mean, you couldn't really have gotten anybody better for your coaching position. So I think that's a great hire for Nebraska.
Yeah, and I really hope Nebraska here in the next few years can build something up, because I mean, even now they're constantly 9-3 9, 4-8, and they still have sellouts every single week. So I mean,
yeah,
I love everything that they stand for in terms of just the fan support with that program. So we'll have to just wait and see if they can get a really good coach. If Matt Rule can come in here and take over, that's going to be really, really good for them.
Yeah.
So, and then last but not least, got some USA soccer that's been going down. The World Cup, obviously, this is something that's been buzzing all around social media, all over TikTok, Twitter. USA actually the second youngest team in the World Cup this year, and they got it out. They got out the group stage, and now they're going to be playing the Netherlands on Saturday. So, were y'all able to catch that game this past week with against Iran?
I didn't see the whole game. I watched a couple of the highlights. Christian did his thing, sacrificed his body for that goal.
He sacrificed more than his body, bro. He sacrificed his meat, bro.
His kids, man.
Oh, what? No,
his
you're right,
kids.
though. And I respect it. I'm glad he did that. I mean, it's happy to be back where we haven't been in so long, to be actually in the tournament. I mean, I'm just not learning about how the group stage works and how the points work, and I'm just not getting plugged into this this World Cup business. But it's always super exciting to watch the World Cup. I mean, fan bases of all the countries, it's electric. So I'm glad for us to be competing. I hope we can bring this thing home. I know it's unlikely, but
Yeah.
we gotta have some faith. I don't know every player's name. I'm not an expert on this, but I'm rooting for my guys.
Yeah, I caught a couple of the highlights as well. I saw that sacrifice by Zion on that goal. I mean, that's crazy. But for everyone listening, for everyone watching it, it's called soccer, not football, according to the USA soccer team. So, what y'all thought about that game?
I mean, I think we need to calm down with the soccer thing because I mean, some of the other nations might get mad. You know, they might get in their feelings. And,
They've been cooking us for years.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you don't call it football in other countries, they get mad. So we got to watch out. You know, we don't want to get the Netherlands any more motivation. But I think we have a good chance. You know, obviously, you know, it gets a little bit more competitive. You know, once you get out, you know, the knockout stage. But I think we have a good chance as long as we can score goals. That's really been the biggest problem. It's consistently scoring.
I've been really impressed with the soccer team. Obviously, I mean Tyler Adams. He's the captain. Super young guy, but he's really handled adversity really well. Done a great job, and I've been keeping up with him and this roster a little bit since since leading up to the World Cup, and I've been able to catch every single game. But I've been really impressed though with this young team. Though I mean the fact that we've only given up 1 goal in our 3 matches, and then we were able to draw with England, who's potentially a favorite to win the World Cup.
True.
That was a really big point for us to get as well. And then of course Pulisic putting his body on the line. You know, you love to see that, man. So patriotic, man. And
Very patriotic.
Very patriotic, America.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna stay optimistic. I don't think America's gonna win the World Cup, but I'm really optimistic about this. Yeah, I'm gonna keep hope up, but I mean we're not a soccer first country though.
We're not.
These people believe.
Might start a world war if USA wins soccer too.
Yeah, it's gonna be nasty. How about this? A lot of people think we have the best athletes in the world. Do you guys think that if we were a soccer first country, we'd be the best? Right? Because
we already still the best country.
No.
Overall.
I'm talking about the best.
We already winning.
I'm talking about the best.
Our foreign listeners that we get.
We love y'all.
Watch this one.
Hey.
I forgot we have those.
Yeah,
we don't want to disrespect them.
No, but a lot of people think we have the best athletes in the world. Do y'all think that if we prioritize soccer, that we would dominate that in the same manner that we dominate like a basketball? Or do you think that some countries are just better at it?
If we put all the resources in soccer, we might have a chance.
I don't think USA would ever get to that level. Like talking about domination for years.
I don't know about domination, but we can win a World Cup if we just like locked in.
Yeah, like we can win a World Cup.
We gotta lock in though.
You can't.
I
don't think USA could ever get to the level of dominating every country in every sport. Like there's just no way.
Oh no, that's facts.
Something's got to give at some point. You can't be the best at every single thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. We could.
If we win a World Cup within the next 20 years, I mean, I think that's.
If USA starts dominating soccer, we just got to.
We
just got to tell the world, like, hey, it's really called soccer. It's not football anymore.
America's actually hosting the World Cup in 2026.
Yeah,
actually, the next one. So.
We there for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, we got.
I'm gonna be live. I'm gonna catch one of those.
TRD live at the World Cup.
That'll be lit. We got it for sure.
I'm gonna be going crazy, man. But yeah,
is that it?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So they got Netherlands coming up on Saturday, so we'll see how that goes. Last time they played them, they got a 4-3 win in a friendly, so we'll have to wait and see how that goes, man. So we appreciate everybody tuning in, listening to this week's episode of the Rundown Podcast. Make sure to follow our Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, everything.
Wherever you get your podcasts.
Y'all know we love y'all, man.
So tap in. We love you guys, and we appreciate y'all's support.
Stay up, stay blessed, and we are out.
Peace out.
That boy did his homework. Capping like
he did.
Homework.
I've been watching.
You a soccer guy?
Yeah,
Big soccer guy.
Big